Craig, as we know, is one of New Zealand's leading political and particularly economic and business commentators, and I'm just about to twit him over something. So we introduce him to the show now. Craig, hello, how are you?
Good morning, Michael. You won't be able to Twitter me because I'm not on social media.
No. I'm just about to do something else.
Okay.
Did you read yesterday, and it's been published throughout the world, the Times Higher Educational Supplements, tertiary higher education rankings, international rankings? Did you read those?
No, but let me guess the outcome.
Oh, you go. You guess. You guess them.
Not good.
No. Do you know something? Okay. Well, first of all, we've only got one university in the top 300 in the world. One. Craig.
That's correct. It's Auckland.
That's right, and it's 150, ranked 150th in the world. Our old alma mater, Otago University, which has always prided itself as being, one of the top universities in the world, blah, 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 has now fallen to a ranking of somewhere between 301 and 350. And there are only one other university in that particular ranking as well, and then we play off into the 400s. There are 21, Craig, 21 universities and tertiary institutions in Australia that are ranked higher than Otago University.
And let me guess, Melbourne is in the top 10.
No. Australia's dropped as well on the international standings as well. They've got 9 in the top 100. Their top ranking comes in at about 38, and I think it is Melbourne. Yeah.
Okay, I must have dropped a bit. Yes, that is consistent with the PISA test scores for our children in literacy and numeracy. They're declining. I saw that in stark contrast to what we observed in Ireland. Our education system needs rapid attention.
I got a friend of mine who works in the tertiary sector said to me yesterday, she works at Victoria University, and she says, Michael, our top lecturers and professors are leaving. They're going. All our top brilliant students, they're leaving New Zealand. They're not coming back. She said these rankings are just going to get worse, not better. Do you agree with that?
Yes, you've got choices, and students should be demanding great lecturers, great researchers to expand their knowledge, and they have choices. It's not cheap to go to other universities, so it can't suit everybody, but for those who have the means and the ambition, they will go to other universities for sure.
Yeah, I must admit, it was I was shocked by it. I mean, you and I have seen a gradual decline over the last 20 years, but this is the worst it's ever been. And interestingly, the Otago Data Times aren't reporting it for an obvious reason. It is the challenge. Just on that, before we get on to other matters, Craig, have we got too many? I mean, is it a bit like having too many Super Rugby teams in Australia or even New Zealand? You start to dilute the talent.
I take a different perspective, which is this sort of pressure, which you want to kind of encourage innovative solutions to this sort of pressure, is to export, and that is to attract students to New Zealand who still view us as a better option than their own environments. It's a different type of student. There's different levels of qualification that they might want, masters, PhDs, etc. So you've got to turn it around. How can you export our services and encourage our universities to think like that? That is a partial solution, but it's something that we should give a go.
All right. Okay. Listen, the other thing that came up this week, and you've actually instructed us. I've learned an awful lot just from our conversations, Craig, and so has everybody else who's been listening to you. But I see now, when we're talking about this election, and we've talked about the bribery election, essentially, I've never seen an election like it in my life, actually. Probably you haven't, neither of us have really. And that was that there is starting to now come a realisation that in terms of the taxation policies of the parties and what they're promising, their spending, etc., there is this massive gap still and you've raised it a number of times, about the monies that we're going to have to spend for not meeting our global emissions targets, and that there are now hundreds, perhaps billions of dollars out made worse and exacerbated by both National and Labor and their promises. Is that your reading too?
Absolutely. We've talked about that. I've spoken about National's tax package being a self-contained island off the fiscal coast. So I'm looking forward to Nicola.
Very good.
Nicola Willis's fiscal package this afternoon is coming out, which will address underlying expenditure, taxation, and borrowing issues that we have. Could I just sort of turn to a question that you asked me last week, which has troubled me all week, which is you asked me a question of what do businesses think and how they would vote. And of course, my thinking is that businesses, of course, don't vote, individuals do. But I did attend the Mood of the Boardroom this morning.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a temperature test from the corporate sector. Nicola Willis and Grant Robertson get a chance to speak. It was a robust, really good debate actually between the two, and quite fiery. So you sense, time is ticking before mid-October. But a sort of summary, so your listeners you can read it in the Herald, but the quotes are things like higher business funding costs, unsustainably large fiscal imbalances, and a slowing China all increase risks for New Zealand businesses, or the tide's going out on Labor and the scepticism over National's tax package. It was quite surprising the number of undecideds from the survey around solutions to what we're doing from National. So, the fiscal strategy this afternoon from them is quite important. And then I sort of listened to the leaders' debate, and I sort of agree with lots of people that it was pretty beige in many respects. The biggest winner was probably Paddy Gower, the last debate, with the time he spent asking questions, etc. But what disturbed me was two things. One was on the spot, leader in waiting, Christopher Luxon, agreeing on the spot to spending decisions without saying, hang on.
That's incredible.
We've got a fiscal strategy coming out on Friday.
Yeah.
I can't do the yes or a no because it has implications for what we're doing. I would have thought if they really got kind of strict discipline issues, that would have been a no. So I was surprised at that. The second statement was an off-the-cuff statement from Prime Minister Hipkins on this topic of climate change, and he said, I haven't quite got the quote in front of me, but the concept was, so you won't support New Zealand steel subsidies, you'd rather have an increase in the ETS price of $40, which affects all voters. And I was sort of thinking about that, and you probably do the same thing. You have this kind of 2 a.m. wake up and the synapses in your brains are working, and you think, actually, now I understand what just transition means. When Labor talks about the just transition to 2030, it's that the cost of the transition should be borne by taxpayers, not by users of goods affected by fossil fuel price changes through the ETS. And when you think about personal income taxes, 50% of us don't pay personal income tax. 50%, the other 50% do. So when taxpayers are funding New Zealand Steel, it's actually coming from half of the electorate, which may not be Labor's voting base. And that kind of struck me, well, that's the just transition in their terms, is that a segment of this population, our population, is paying for this transition. It's not equally shared by taxpayers, rather than the impost coming through the ETS, which is what I suspect is one of the reasons why the ETS was put on hold late last year. Because it affects the voting base. And then I think, gosh, the kind of political implications of what's going on is massive.